What's up, Guyton?
My man, what's happening?
Hey, everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of the Run It Back podcast, where we all understand that success always awaits us on the other side of hard, but to get there, you always got to be willing to wake up and run it back. Welcome, Guyton.
My man, what's happening, man?
Hey,
Not
man,
only is it our fourth episode, it's our first of 2026.
I know, man. You got the headphones on, and you got. You serious about this, man? Huh?
Hey, you know what? This is 2026 going to be a great year for running back.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that, man. Well, we're gonna tee up a few topics today, right? As we get into this discussion, there'll be some brief topic discussions that we'll talk about today. And I know you had some things that was on your mind that you want to share and discuss
Yeah.
today.
Today's episode is just going to be fun, man. You know, it's going to be fun and chop it up like we do on a regular basis. I know sometimes our spouses get upset with us having some of these long-winded conversations, but just starting it out, man. Hey, two of the largest transactions that happened in the NBA this year was KD going to Houston and Harden going to the Cavs. My question to you, just to throw it out there, man, is do you think either one of those teams is going to make it to the representative conference finals?
Man, here, okay. I'm gonna start with Houston.
All right.
I think Houston has a shot. I think no question they have a shot right now. Right now, Houston's ranked number 4 in the West. You got OKC, you got the Spurs, you got Houston's third, excuse me, and then you got the Nuggets. So they're right there, in the hunt this particular year, starting out the season. Now that we're into the year, but I don't know if they'll actually come out of the West. And I got a number of different reasons why I feel that could be the case. But I'll start with what I think are probably their strengths. Defensively, they're one of the top defensive teams in the league. They're one of the top field goal percentage teams in the league. They got one of the best 3-point percentages that they got in the league right now. They've got size at every position that they start. So from a talent standpoint, and then with the acquisition of KD, I think on when you look at just on the table, they got enough to make some noise. I just don't know whether or not they'll have enough to be able to come out of the West.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with all those points. I mean, those are all good points. But number one, I will say this, man. I'm rooting for Coach Udoka, man. I mean, come on, man. How can I not root for Portland's own, man? And not only that, a Democrat at that.
Oh, I'm always,
Uh,
yeah, no doubt
yeah,
about it.
I got to go that. So, having said that, I think it's a tall task, and I'm a huge Kevin Durant fan. Man, he's having a great year. But where I'll stick my pen in the greatest challenge is that point guard position, man. Losing Van Fleet hurts him, in my opinion. In fact, man, I remember at the beginning of the season, I can't remember who they were running at the point guard position, man. But they started a tall lineup, but they just didn't have that perimeter play from the point guard position, man, which I think is a critical position
Yeah.
for all the reasons that you and I know. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing that will hurt them. Not to mention the folks that they're going to have to compete against. West is tough. I think the overall champion is going to come out of the West, but without a solid point guard, I don't even know if they make it past. It's all going to depend on matchups, but I don't know if they make it past the second round at best. I don't think they'll make it to the conference final.
All right. So this is where you and I separate.
Okay.
Because if you look at all the other platforms that are out there right now, I'm talking about your popular platforms, whether it's on Fox or whether it's on, ESPN or whatever. The thing that really has me kind of confused is you've got all these pundits who are constantly saying that Houston does not have a point guard. And I'm going, am I missing something here? Because they have the answer, and it's Reed Shepherd. Reed Shepherd is your point guard. But if you look at any type of platform right now, they're acting like, Houston has no point guard. And
Hmm.
understand, Van Vliet is out, and much respect to him. I mean, he's a veteran, had a lot of success in the league, won a championship with Toronto. So there's no question they missed that veteran leadership. But to me, Reed Shepherd is up and coming. And I think he's ready to have an impact right now. So when I say that Houston, there's a strong possibility maybe they don't come out of the West. I think there is a chance for them to come out of the West, but they're going to have to make some adjustments, I think, just with, their lineup. And in my opinion, a humble opinion, I think they're going to have to give Reed Shepherd the keys. Give him the keys.
Well, I'm not going to dispute that, but you
You better
said
not
Reed is
dispute it.
you said Reed is up and coming. Aren't we talking about here? I mean, we basically in March. NBA playoffs start in April. So is Reed going to be ready by April, or are we talking 27?
I'm saying he's ready now. I'm
Okay,
saying
all
he's
right,
ready. I'm saying what I'm saying he's ready now. If you look at his numbers, right?
yeah,
Um, up 200% in his points that he's scoring, averaging this year. He's up in his field goal percentage from twos by like 7 or 8%. He's up in 3-point percentage. He went from 32 to 40% a 3-point percentage. And when I
hmm,
look at the total package of what he brings to the table, just from a skill set standpoint, guys, I'm talking about ball handling, catch and shoot, off the bounce, his stamina, his defensive ability. He's athletic. He can create, he can manufacture his own stuff, and he can get it off the catch. He's a freaking problem. And I
how
think
much
that
how much is he averaging? You said he's up 200%. How much is he averaging?
he was averaging 4 his rookie year. He's averaging basically 13 now. And so they basically doubled his minutes, right? So he's averaging about 24 minutes a game. And the more minutes you play him, the more productive he becomes. And I'm not saying that Houston doesn't already recognize that
All right,
because they're playing him more now. But when I look at their lineup, I think that Houston has in the West, I think that Houston has the most potential to explode and become something different, even in March, after
right,
March. Because
right.
when you look at their pieces from to their center to Thompson, all the size they have up front, Jabari, they're
Yeah,
going 6'8", 6'11", 6'10",
yeah,
6'7". I
yeah,
mean, it's one of the biggest lineups. They're the top rebounding team in the league, in the NBA
yeah,
right now.
yeah.
And then they got the defensive piece covered, but you got Thompson playing the point, right? Or right now, and he's out of position, but he's learned how to play it, and he plays it pretty well. He
Right,
defends pretty well. But I think when you put like a Reed Shepherd in, I think everybody kind of goes to their natural position. And you go from a situation where you got a Kevin Durant who's got to initiate and finish to now a situation where he just becomes a finisher because now you've got somebody who can distribute the rock. I'm
right.
watching them play against the Knicks last week. They're going at the Knicks on the road. They're up 18 in the fourth quarter. And you see a situation where, Reed Shepherd's in the game. They run a double pick and roll for him, right? One pick and roll to the right, not there. They run another pick and roll for him to the left. He comes back again to the right, jumps off 1 foot. He's on the right side of the court, throws the ball to the corner, cross court pass to KD for a catch and shoot 3, right? That vision, those instincts is missing from the lineup they have when he's not in there. And I think if you give him the keys, now he's going to be able to accentuate all the other talent that you have on that roster. And I think they become a different team.
Man, so you're saying, are they going to make it to the conference championship or not? That's the question.
Not as presently,
Okay,
not with their present rotation, I don't
okay,
think. I'm
okay.
saying that they have the most upside because I see that they're solid in all the other areas defensively, rebounding. They don't shoot a lot of threes, but when they shoot them, they make them. But if they make that shift and putting Reed in as a point guard and letting him run the show, I think they become a different team because now players, gravitate towards their normal positions. And
Right,
then you got a situation where KD's averaging 37 minutes a game,
right.
right? So, and he can do it, but I'm saying you become predictable in terms of what
Right.
you're doing, even for a KD. And I
Yeah.
think you need to become a little bit more unpredictable in terms of their offensive schemes. And the best way to be able to do that, I think, is to give Reed the keys.
I think you answered the question though when you said, as constructed, as a current rotation stands, they're not going to make the conference final. So you agree with me. Let's move on.
Well,
Let's move on.
hold on. I ain't saying that because look at who the coach is. You just
Well,
mentioned
don't
it.
you think he would have made the adjustment now? Number one,
No.
he started the season with that big lineup you were talking about. Reed Shepard was on the team then. Reed Shepard has not started. If he has started, he's not a permanent starter, and he's not permanently in their rotation. So I would think that Ime has had a chance to look at him last year and this year, and he's still in that same position. He's given him more minutes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's giving him the keys to run the team. I think over 2 years, he would have been able to recognize that over 2 seasons, he would be able to recognize, okay, this is my guy. He can run this team. Here's the keys to my Cadillac. He ain't gonna give him the keys to the Bentley. He's not gonna give him the keys to that, right?
Well, who? But
He may
who
give
did?
them to your golf cart, but he ain't
Right.
giving them to that.
Well, but think about who they integrated into the squad. Who did they acquire?
Kevin Durant.
Okay. So when you acquire that level of talent, right? That level of talent creates a lot of momentum, right? In terms
Yeah,
of the offensive scheme and what you do offensively.
yeah,
But the reason why I mentioned Ime is because Ime is a transformational coach. And when I say this, I mean that he's taken teams that are predominantly one on one, your turn, my turn type of situation that
yes,
he inherited with Boston, right?
absolutely.
Remember that was the
Yeah,
problem. That was the problem for the first half of the season, beyond the first half of the season. So it takes time to sell it,
yeah,
I think. And with Kevin Durant coming on board, for him to get integrated with the squad, and then you could still make some rotational changes
yeah,
as you sell your program and what you're trying to accomplish to advance to the Western Conference Finals and hopefully get to the NBA championship. So I think Ime can sell it. He's good at doing transformations and more balance of being able to take the ball out of Durant's hands and not have him be so much of an initiator,
yeah.
and being able to disguise it a little bit more, those
Right,
offensive
right.
schemes a little bit more. You can do that with a Reed Shepard, and so I think that Ime will eventually get there, and I think he'll get there this year.
So let me ask you this, and we do got to
And
move on because I can see you locked in on this. You laser focused on this. But let me ask you this. So fast forward, Van Fleet is healthy next year. Who gets the keys, Van Fleet or Reed Shepard? And if it does go to Van Fleet, are they in a better position with him driving the car versus Reed Shepard?
man, I ain't gonna answer that question, man. Get
Thank
out
you,
of here.
because you know the answer. Let's move on, man. Cleveland, James Harden to the Cavs.
Yeah,
What's your take on that one?
man. What's your take on it?
I know. Okay. Hey, I'm a James fan. I am a
Okay,
James Harden fan. But
okay.
I love the situation. Again, just to go back to the question, do I think they have a chance to reach the Eastern Conference Final? I believe so. And the reason why is I don't think that the Eastern Conference is as difficult of a challenge for Cleveland as Houston challenges would be over there with San Antonio, OKC,
That's a
Denver,
good point.
Minnesota,
Yeah.
et cetera. So I believe that Cleveland has a really good chance. Number two, I like the addition of James because I think James has transitioned to a pure point guard who can score the ball. You can't fall asleep on the guy and just think that he's going to bring it up, set the table, make the pass, and get rid of it. You got to respect the fact that he can still get you a bucket. And but I think that he has accepted the fact that and years ago, this is not new, that he's not that number one option, nor does he have to be the number two option. And I think he's very comfortable in his role. And I think at the end of the day, man, James is going to go down as one of the best 3-point scorers in the league right now. If he's not already there, he will soon be second to Steph as having the most threes in the league. So again, man, you got to respect his ability to shoot the three ball, create off the dribble, and I like their chances. And they got good bigs, so it's not all about James. They got good bigs, and I think that the Eastern Conference is weaker. So I love that. I love that.
You love that. So you
I
think
love
they're
that.
you so you think they're coming out of the East?
I don't think they'll come out of the East.
How much do you love it?
Here, you bring up a good point. I don't love. I love Detroit. I love Detroit.
Okay.
I don't like anybody else more than I like Cleveland, though. I don't like the Knicks. I don't like Boston. I don't like who else is there. You got the Knicks, Boston.
You got Philly.
You got Philly. I
Yeah.
don't like any of them as much as I like Cleveland.
So I'm trying to get the answer. So are they coming out of the East? Is Cleveland
No,
coming out?
the question was will they come out of the East? The question was will they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Okay.
And
Okay.
they will make it until wherever they meet Detroit. So if they meet Detroit in the second round, they're out in the second round. If they meet Detroit in the last round, they're out in the last round. But
Okay.
in either case, they'll beat everybody else.
So they won't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
They will, depending on the seeding. If they're number two seed, they'll make it. If they're number 4 seed, they'll have to face the number 1 seed, which will be Detroit. They won't make it. So if they're the 2 or 3 seed, yes, that's my answer.
Man, you dancing more than Fred Astaire in here, man.
There you go.
So no, all good takes. The reason why I struggle with that trade doesn't have as much to do with James as it has to do with in 24-25. It wasn't 23-24. It wasn't 22-23. It was 24-25. You were 64-18 with the best record in the East. You were number 1 seed. You won 16 games in a row that season, the most in the history of the Cavaliers organization.
You said that was 24-25?
Yeah.
Or 20?
24-25. They were 16.
So last season.
Yeah, last season, right?
Okay.
And so you were the number 1 most potent offensive team, definitely in the East. I think might be in the league, averaging 121 points a game. And you had the big man. You had Darius Garland. You had Mitchell. They had figured it out. And then you also acquired, who did they acquire? They acquired DeAndre Hunter, right? They got DeAndre Hunter as well. Another stretch forward, can shoot, can defend, to make them stronger defensively. So where I struggle with is, what do you believe in? I mean, over an 82 game season, you 64-18. You got bounced in the I think in semifinals, right? Last year,
Right.
I think by the Knicks, but there were injuries that drove that. You had, I think Donovan had some injuries. I think that Darius had some injuries with his toe and those kinds of things that kept hampering him. So you still need to let it bake. And when you look at the history of the league, most teams don't win a championship on that first run. I mean, even you go back to the history of it, the Celtics, the Pistons, Chicago, you go through some pain and you stick through it. It's like the RunnIT Back deal. Success is on the other side of hard, right?
There you go. I love it.
So why is the franchise scared of hard? And you jump the ship and you make the trade and you didn't let it bake. So that's my issue with that trade. Now about Harden, my whole take is we know his history, right? In the playoffs, right? That's talked about enough. I think it becomes a style of play thing.
Right.
James doesn't shoot a lot of catch and shoot threes or catch and shoot buckets. The system that you run doesn't have a lot of motion in it with James because he doesn't move without the ball as much. And then that could be fine in the regular season, but in the playoffs, teams lock in. And if you don't disguise your stuff, if you don't become unpredictable on some of your possessions, you become predictable. So I think the style of play and how he plays, even though he can score, he can facilitate, he's one of the best to ever do it. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a former MVP. There's no question. His style of play, I don't think is conducive to you becoming unpredictable in a playoff scenario. And I question whether or not, he's going to be able to come up big when it matters the most. And I'm not going to belabor that, but those are my concerns.
I don't think he needs to be as big as he needed to be for Houston and some of the other teams that he's been in the past. He could be, in a similar role that he was when when he was six man of the year when he was with OKC. In fact, I don't know if he won it, but he definitely was in consideration if he did not win it. But he was more of a facilitator, got them
Yeah,
buckets when they need to get buckets. He was a piece. And I
yeah,
think that he's just a piece now. I mean, it's clearly Donovan's team. And I think that having James there alleviates some of the stress and predictability, to use your term, of Donovan. Down the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
yeah,
Uh, so, like I said, I like the opposition. I think it gives them more options. And but believe it or not, it's make no mistake about it. It's definitely going to come down to Donovan. It's not going to come down to James like in years past. To your point, it's come down to James.
yeah, yeah.
So,
All right. Well, so my answer is no. They don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and there's no, context, situational stuff you add into it. I know you got an
oh,
MBA. I know you got an MBA, but I mean, damn, this is a sports conversation. I
okay,
mean, they're not going to make it. They're not going to get to the Eastern Conference. They're not going to get to the
okay,
Eastern Conference Final, in my opinion.
okay, okay.
Right.
So let me just be clear on this, right?
Oh God.
So if Reed Shepard was in the rotation, was not a hedge versus James not being who James has been in the past. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm very consistent with my take that James will show up. It all depends on the seeding, how far they go. And that clearly comes down to when they beat the Pistons, because I believe the Pistons will represent the Eastern Conference in NBA Finals.
We off this, but just to let you know that they're 6-1 with Reed as a starter. Just so you know, the Rockets are.
Man,
Okay.
that's good to know.
So
That's
yeah,
good to
I'm
know.
just letting you know. So
Yeah.
all right. But one of the things that there's been a lot of discussion on is this whole thing around load management, right?
Yeah.
Load management. Some of its discussions have led to tanking, those kinds of things. Where do you sit on these discussions around load management, the impact that it has on the NBA and the league? I'm very curious. You and I have had some private discussions about it,
Right.
but not a public discussion about it. So, kind of where are you at on this whole piece?
Personally, I don't like it, and the reason why I don't like it is because the fans. I think it hurts the fans, right? And it doesn't take in consideration of the fans. You have a product, and you're delivering that product or that service to your fan base, and it's so expensive. Back in the day, 5 years ago, so not back in the 80s and all that other stuff, but you would number one, you didn't see it back in the 80s and 90s, but in either case, you were concerned about that fan that spent a lot of money
Yeah.
to take their kid or a customer or someone to a basketball game, and not to see someone on an opposing team, and you didn't know whether or not that person was going to show up and play or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you wasted some money, or you felt some kind of way because you felt like you didn't get a return on investment, if you will. Well, that scenario has actually expanded now, where you have to pay for streaming services, whether or not it's on Prime or Netflix or the ESPN app or wherever it is you can find the damn NBA games these days. Uh, it's a streaming service that you have to pay for. So my point is, whether or not you're sitting in your living room or you're at the actual arena, you want to see players play. And when they sit on the bench, I just don't think that that's fair for the folks. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, those are really good takes, and I agree with a lot of it. I think that, look, when you sign a contract, and it's a multi-million-dollar contract, not just you as a player, but also the league just signed a $77 billion media rights contract. That includes Disney, it includes Amazon and NBC and the whole nine yards. So, $77 billion over 11 years. It just started this year.
Hmm.
And you got advertisers behind that, the whole business side of it, the whole ecosystem behind it is just incredible. The money that the NBA has been able to to get, which I'm thankful for because I think it's the greatest game out of any sport in the world, basketball. So I'm excited about that. At the same time, when you make that kind of investment, and I'm gonna refer back to on December 2nd, I'm sitting here excited, getting ready to watch Oklahoma City play Golden State Warriors. Oklahoma City had won 13 in a row. They were coming to Golden State, and then all of a sudden, you don't have Green, you don't have Curry that are playing that game because of load management. And it's like it's a great opportunity for me to see, hey, where are the Warriors at? They had won some games at that particular time. This would be a great test, that kind of thing. So I imagine how I felt. I imagine how somebody felt who is, saved up the money to go watch Steph Curry for the first time, or Shea or whoever, and all of a sudden, they're not there. And I think when you talk about a business transaction in business, if you're selling a product, right? And I buy that product, but I expect to receive it, as I evaluate it. And I got expectations that come with that in terms of what I want to see. And when those expectations aren't met, then I can become disconnected as a fan. And I think there's some risk to that you don't see immediately, but it can erode the popularity of our league, over time. And I will go back to the 80s because I remember being a kid, rushing home and having to watch, tape delay for NBA championship games.
Right.
Magic Johnson's game was tape delayed, the 1980 game where he had 42 points and 15 assists and they won on the road against the Sixers. That was on tape delay.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do anything that puts the league at risk. I'm talking about 11 years from now of being able to secure a bigger bag, right? Because of a bad customer experience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's kind of where I sit at that. And I think that, and I don't blame the players. I think a lot of it has to do with, the management, the franchises. You got these sport medicine departments now that work for each franchise. And the reality is you got to justify your existence if you're in that role. You're analyzing data. If you're the sports medicine guru and you can correlate, hey, I can give you this much time off. You got this better shot that this star player is going to be healthy for the playoffs, that kind of thing. If I can sell that, right, it justifies my existence. It's
Right.
adding value. When in reality, there's no scientific correlation that that's true.
But here's the deal. It's difficult for all the reasons that you said. But
Yeah.
if you put on a business hat from, you're an end consumer. You're talking about it from a business standpoint.
Right.
But at the same time, from an owner's standpoint, you want to make sure you get a good return on your investment there as well. And you don't want to wear that out. I mean, there's been a ton of injuries. There's more injuries, it seems like now than there were back in the 80s or 90s when folks were playing extended games, right?
Right.
But some of those injuries were catastrophic where they did end folks' career. So you have been able to see some folks come back over time. And, most recently, Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant looks like Kevin Durant of old, right? But it's taken some time for him to get there. But they got to manage that. So as you talk about these medical professionals that are hired, I mean, their concern is to protect and nurture that asset as best they could, right? And an owner has a right to make sure that he does that as well. He or she does that as well, because they want to make sure that they're getting that same return on investment that the consumer thinks that they're getting on the other end. And that's what makes it a challenge, because that's the reason why neither one of us will blame the player, because the player wants to get out there.
Yeah.
I would assume, I would hope that a player would want to get out there.
Right.
There are some folks that we know that have clearly stolen money over the years, but by not getting out there, not wanting to be out there. But that's a different topic for a different day. But it's a tough one. Personally, I don't like it. But to be honest, I don't see it going away.
Yeah.
The
Well,
tanking, we're not even talking about the tanking piece. But again,
Yeah.
that's even a business decision, right? I horribly hate the tanking piece. They're going to have to figure that thing out.
to your point, right, on the injuries,
Yeah.
the injury, the catastrophic injuries that you're seeing players experience today is happening in a load management era. So that kind
my
of
point.
proves to my, what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
there's no correlation to that. I'm talking
Yeah.
about, you had Halliburton who's out, right? You got Lillard who's out, you got Tatum who's out, all same injury, which is an Achilles tear.
Yeah.
We're in the load management era. So I'm
Yeah.
saying there's no correlation to that. And if a fan pays to see Guyton play or whoever or Durant or whoever play, I expect to, if he's healthy, right?
Yeah.
If he's not healthy, I don't, I want him to, to get better and get his
Yeah.
time off. But if you can play, man, you should be able to play, right? Is
Yeah.
my take on
Well, if they're paying money to see Guyton play there, it's going to be comedy. It's going to be on par with Eddie Murphy.
it. You got those red and white clown shorts you used to wear back in the day. Right on, man. All right. Okay, Guyton. So let's talk about this, man. It's been over 75 years the league has been in existence, and you start looking at one of the positions, that point guard position. I kind of want to get your take in terms of how that position has evolved and where it sits at today. Are we in a better place now at the point guard position, or are we worse off now, decades later in this particular role? So let's kind of just talk about the evolution of that position, of that point guard
Well, I
position.
don't think you can talk about the evolution of point guard position without talking about the evolution of the talent altogether. I mean, across the board is off the charts. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously you have the extra stuff with Wimby
Hmm.
and KD and the things that they can do that, man, that folks just didn't even think about doing at that size before. But man, even just the footwork and and the explosion and the ball handling and all that other stuff from everybody at every position, right? So they all have evolved. My take on specifically on that point guard position, Hamp, is that it really hasn't evolved that much, right? To me, a guard is a guard. And that goes back to when I was a kid, when I used to watch Nate Archibald. These are the guards that I like. Nate Archibald, Ernie DiGregorio, obviously Earl the Pearl, Pistol Pete Maravich. I mean, were they ones? Were they twos? They were scoring point guards, right?
Hmm.
And not only were they scoring point guards, but they make plays, right? And so to this day, I like guards that make plays. I mean, whether or not that's evolution over time, that was Isaiah Thomas, or up to today's time, Steph Curry, Chris Jackson, or Mahmoud. Those to me they were guards that made plays, and I've
Right.
always been attracted to that. To me, what has evolved is the setup guard, right? So that person that's going to come up, make the first pass, cut away, and stay away, right?
Okay.
I think that came in the 90s, maybe,
Yeah.
when there was a lot of physical play and everybody was trying to get the ball to the big. Maybe Chicago has something to do that with the triangle offense. There's been some 1-4 sets, particularly in the college game, where there was no place for the a penetrating point guard to get to, right?
Right.
So to me, it's been more about the style of play than it has been the evolution of the guards, because there's always been scoring point guards, and I think that the last pure point guard to me, who had the ability to make plays with the bounce off the dribble, is clearly Chris Paul.
Okay.
Chris Paul would have been that guy to me, versus a very effective guard who didn't put the ball in the hole, but he could make plays, was Mark Jackson,
Uh huh.
right?
Right.
Again, I just think it's different, man. Stephon Marbury. I mean, what's Steph for one? What's year two? I mean, come on, man. No, nice,
Right.
nice.
Right.
So that's my take.
That's your take. So is the point guard of the day better than the point guard of yesterday?
Absolutely, but I think
Okay.
at every position they're better. But
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. I think that you brought up a lot of players that I would definitely mention, but I would say that there's been different styles to jump on your bandwagon. There's been different styles in different eras. When you look at the 50s and the 60s, with Kuzi, and he had 6 NBA championships, which kind of stamps the style that he was playing. He led the league in assists 8 straight years in a row. So that kind of became the prototype of what a point guard should look like, because also the results that he got. from a team standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this, to me, this framework around a point guard that was a little bit constricting in terms of being this coach on the floor, get us in our sets, pass first, think, shoot later, and a little bit more predictable in the old days about what that point guard's role was going to be. And then the guys you mentioned, we kind of evolve into the 70s, and you got Frazier, and you got Pearl, and then Frazier has that epic game in Game 7 against the Lakers where he drops 36, 19 assists. He defends. He scores. He kind of plays both ends. He's 6'3". Then that kind of became a shift along with Earl the Pearl, Monroe. And then we moved into the 80s, and it became this freak thing with Magic, who's 6'9". All of us in Portland, 5'10", 5'11". Magic 6'9", and completely changed the game. And now it became about throwing dimes. I mean, he changed the whole culture of how the game was played from that position. It became popular to be a great passer because of
Right.
Magic. And the Magic could score when he needed to
Right.
score as well. And then out of that evolved Isaiah, which was, to me, when you said the 80s, the 90s, became kind of that first mode of somebody who could really handle it, shoot it, off the catch, off the bounce. He could defend. He's kind of a combination of all of that. That position kind of evolved into that. And then with him winning championships at that size, it stamped that you could get somebody at that size and build a franchise around them and win games. And that opened the door up for the Iversons, for the Marburys. And, it just opened the whole door that you don't have to be 6'8". You don't have to
Right.
be Magic to have a tremendous impact. So I agree with your point. It did come down to style, but also I think coaches played a significant role on how that guard played because of what you allowed your point guard to do. And as the skill improved, point guards got a lot more leeway and a lot more freedom. And then as you got the results, Isaiah kind of stamped it. Where
Right.
Nate Archibald, which one of my favorite players back in the day, had probably the greatest season that any point guard, one of the greatest seasons any point guard could have. 34 and 13 assists, led the league in scoring and assists, but they didn't win.
Yeah.
So that didn't become the prototype. So, but with Isaiah, I think that kind of began to change the game a little bit. But it's just evolved to that point. It's been fun to watch the skill set improve.
Yeah, and a couple things. Number one, you mentioned Magic, and you know how I feel about Magic. And we'll have that conversation another day too. But man, I never saw him play. I saw him play towards the end of his career, but I never saw the peak of his career. Is Oscar Robertson. I mean, Oscar Robertson had to be a beast with respect to his ability to score the ball as well as do the dish the ball out and rebound. I mean, with respect to his triple doubles, he was dominant. But I don't believe he ever got a championship until Kareem was there. So but he definitely changed the game in that position as well as Magic changing the game in that
No,
position.
you're right. Somebody just canceled our podcast because we didn't mention Oscar Robertson. So thank you for covering that. Right. I mean, because he dominated the '60s, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah,
was,
yeah,
that was Oscar's era. There's no
yeah, yeah,
question
yeah,
about that. You dead on that, Guyton.
yeah, 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 yes.
Oscar dominated that.
But speaking of style of play, man, now with analytics and the three ball and not having it big and the post, having him on the wing, I mean that just frees it up for someone with good ball handling skills to get to the basket, and then there's nobody there.
Right.
There's nobody there, right? And it gives you the ability. I mean, they pull up for threes on fast breaks now, right? I
Right.
mean, those things, like you said, that coaches allow you to do.
Hmm.
Man, my coach would have yanked me if I pulled up, for three on a 2-on-1 break. I mean, that's a horrible shot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
statistically and analytically now, that's the preferred shot, which makes no
Yeah.
sense to me. But it is what it is. But that just speaks to the fact that style of play has changed what that position looks like. And but in terms of all those guys that we've named, They could have done that back then had they had the same freedom that these folks have now.
You know what? That's a great point because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, even though Kuzi led the league in assists and they won championships, more than likely he could probably do more. But
Yeah.
because you had Bill Russell, you had that size. That was the era of the center, right? Wilt, and then came Kareem. You know, we went to this era of just great centers.
Hmm.
And even if you were a great guard, you know, it was an inside out thing, right? You know, to your point, style of play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had some guys that maybe had that skill set, but couldn't put it all on display because of the style of play, and the bigs were in the middle, and you know you were instructed to inside out first, right?
Right. Right.
So I think that's a great point. But I think as the game began to change, and I remember this, I always kind of think about this: what comes first? Is it the coaching that provides the direction of the style, or is it the player and his talent that forces a new style, right? Because when you think about Mahmoud and Chris Jackson, he kind of aimed after Isaiah, but before, really kind of before Iverson and Steph and those guys, and Marbury and those guys. Um, and he was a freak, right?
Right.
And he had that whole package: release, catch and shoot, quickness, offensive, all kinds of offensive skills. But I don't think they understood how to utilize that skill set, right? So his style of play, his talent wasn't able to override that framework of what they thought rigidly was a point guard. When in actuality, you needed to give him the keys, right? And he got it sporadically,
Right.
but they didn't truly give it to him.
Well, that was the friction between Larry Brown and AI at the Sixers. You
Yeah,
know, they both were frustrated with each other because of that. You know,
yeah,
Ivan knew what he could do, but he felt like he was being put in a box, and Larry Brown thought that Iverson stayed outside that box, and
right,
so
right.
consequently they were frustrated with each other. So
Yeah, but they solved that by moving him to the two.
they moved him
Right?
to the two.
That's Larry moved
Exactly.
him to the two and got him off the ball, right? And so
Right.
that helped Larry emotionally, right?
Right.
Deal with it. And that created a win-win for Iverson as well as for Larry. And they made it
Yeah.
to a finals,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. They did. They did.
But
They
but I
did.
think the game took it to another level. That position took it to another level on, I think the date is on February 27th, 2013 in the Garden, where Steph exploded for 54. And I remember Iman Shumpert talked about, hey man, in that game they could feel that a shift was happening, right? The shots that he was taking, the range that he was shooting it from, that he felt, Iman, this is out of his words, said, I felt like he was taking over the league to play a different way,
Right.
start in that game. You
Right.
know, people think that guards take those shots because hey, you're taking these shots, but the size of the NBA has gotten so big. These guys are like pterodactyls in terms of their
Yeah.
wing size, their athleticism. You got to find a way to create space, and one way is to do that is obviously your ball handling, but another way is your range. If I
Right.
can extend you out, that creates more space and makes it easier for me to do what I want to do and control the geometry on the court. And
Right.
so Mark saw that, Jackson saw that. Steph obviously could fulfill it along with Clay, and that kind of began to another evolution of what that position is. And people get on Steph, they say he's not a point guard. I say he's a hybrid. It's evolved. He's made the role something different. So I just wanted to share that with you.
No, I think that's a good point, and that's the reason why I said, man, I mentioned all those other guards, you know, whether or not it was Tiny or I mean Kyrie Irving, man. I mean, there's a lot of folks that can score the basketball, and I don't think you put him as a one or a two, or a point or off guard or shooting guard or whatever, man. You just you give him the freedom. So you bring up a good point because the question is, did Steph change the game or did Mark Jackson change the game by giving a guard that much freedom? Because prior to that, there was really no one that gave any guard in the NBA that much freedom to pull up on breaks, to shoot from that distance without any hesitation and without, a short hook. Even if you had the green light, you didn't have that. Mark
Yeah.
gave him that, which changed the league.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, that's why I asked the question: what comes first? Is it
Yeah,
the coaching framework, or is
yeah,
it sometimes talent can override, and if you're an open-minded coach, cause you to change your system. But
right.
as you know, a lot of coaches can be stubborn in terms of what they believe works, and like a lot of coaches that I think that Mahmoud had, that Chris Jackson had,
Yeah,
once he lost Doug Moe, I mean, Doug Moe saw what Chris could do, but then once Doug Moe was gone, he never had that kind of leash.
yeah,
But Mark gave, you know, you're right. Mark gave Steph the leash and the freedom to be able to do that, and Steph fulfilled it. And I'll tell a quick story, guy. When I was in college, we were getting ready to play Cal Berkeley. This is an example of the whole coaching thing, and sometimes how coaches put you on a leash. The night before the game, Calvin walked in my room, who's a freshman, right? And he said, "Hey, Hamp, I need to talk to you." And I thought it was something serious. It was going, maybe he was leaving the program or something like that. He says, "Man, I need to tell you, man, about this guy you getting ready to see tomorrow. He was a point guard. He's nice. He's a problem. I've seen the destruction that he can cause in high
yeah,
school. I've seen it. And I just want to put you on notice that not that you can't handle it, but I just want to let you know that a tsunami could be potentially coming tomorrow." And that was against Cal Berkeley. And so that was Kevin Johnson.
yeah,
And so we get on the court, and I'm like waiting for that tsunami,
yeah,
right? They had a great backcourt, him and Chris Washington. And I'm like, okay, they're running a system, right? And I think only one time where he came down and didn't initiate an entry pass where he did something and went up and shot a J. And I went, okay, there it is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then he
yeah.
backed off of it.
Right,
So the coaching that he had in place, they had him so constricted that he couldn't break loose, even though he had that skill set.
right,
And it wasn't until the next year, his senior year, and I think they changed coaches, where he exploded. So
right.
yeah, it can sometimes that coaching piece can keep you in handcuffs,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
if you've got the talent to explode.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and we've all experienced it. I mean, particularly at that guard position, man. If you get with a coach that's trying to control, every possession, and not give the guard the freedom, I mean, it's really, really difficult to try to play without making mistakes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You want to be free to make mistakes because that opens up creativity, that opens up your vision and your ability to make plays that you
right.
feel need to be made, as opposed to, man, I can't hit this gap. I can't throw this lob,
Yeah,
whatever it is, I can't change the pace.
right, right.
So yeah, 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 yeah. That's a good question about maybe we have to have that conversation again down the road. Is it coaches or is it players?
Right on,
It
man.
should be players.
Yeah, yeah, man. Great discussion, Guyton. Man, enjoyed it. You got any other points to add on this one?
Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard of all time.
Okay.
To be continued.
Man, I love Magic, but dude, we'll have to have another discussion on that one. You know where I sit on that.
Absolutely. We're
Yeah,
going
we
to
got.
have it too.
All right.